Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Very nice, Aziz. Very, very nice. That was excellent. So, I'm going to talk to you just for a little while. I wanted to talk about the smart city movement. So I wanted to share with you some of my perspectives. So why smart cities? Why are we concerned about the future of our cities? Well, let's line a few things, okay? Let's talk about where we are today. Over half the world's population lives in cities today. You've probably heard that before, right? We move into cities, by the way, at a rate of about 2 million people per week. So our cities are growing all over the world. And by the middle of this century, we'll be up to about 70% of the world's population in cities. And that number will increase as time goes by. So the center of the human experience is going to be in an urban environment. Let's talk about what's happening in our cities today. One of the dimensions is the rate of construction. We're building at an incredible rate. We're actually building the equivalent of New York City every month. And we'll do that for the next 40 years, right? By the way, that's a lot of refrigerators, right? A lot of microwave ovens. There's a lot of opportunity in just supplying infrastructure and white goods and different types of materials for building these cities. This is not an American phenomena. It's not a Middle Eastern or an African or Australian. This is a global phenomena, right? With all of us living in cities and cities expanding rapidly, we're starting to have mega cities. These are cities over 10 million people. And there's a couple of handfuls now of megacities. Our future belongs to cities. Our future belongs to cities. Now, it'd be a lovely thing to stand here and say, our cities are perfect. I go around the world. I have this great honor to be able to advise cities. And if I could stand here and say, our cities are perfect, and not only are cities perfect, but they are ready for the next 10 years, 20, 50 years. That would be a great thing. The opposite is actually true. The opposite. Our cities are not in good shape, and we're not well prepared. They're not in good shape, and we're not well prepared. Now, I'm an absolute optimist. So when I hear a sentence like that, we're not prepared and we have a lot of work to do, what I think about is, that sounds like opportunity to me. That sounds like, wow, we have work ahead of us, we've amazing problems to solve, and when we do that, we impact the lives of human beings on a very, very deep level. Cities are not abstract to us. No, if you're in traffic in Casablanca, you know that traffic matters or transportation matters, right? You know that, for example, access to reliable, cheap energy is important. Access to fresh drinking water is important. Access to fresh air that isn't polluted is important. And you have concerns around these things in Morocco, and people, cities in every country, in every part of the world, almost every city in the world has the same concerns. So I see this as a remarkable opportunity for us. Now, are we ready? Are we ready to embrace the future? Is all the innovation ready? It's not. Absolutely not, right? We need to innovate like heck. We need to innovate a lot. You could take any aspect of the city today, whether it's buildings or water systems, power, healthcare, education, lots of things. And every one of those areas is ripe innovation. And that means, by the way, that we can build new businesses, and those businesses create jobs, and those jobs create economic activity. And it's a system that works in our favor. It's incredible that we achieve two things. We do work that matters, and we benefit from it too. So doing the right and actually getting economic benefit from it is an amazing intersection of our values. So what I want to do is sort of take you through just a small set of major domains that are shifting right now, give you some ideas, and then wrap up, and we'll jump into the startups that are actually trying to do the things I'm talking about, which is innovate new solutions for a brand new world. I do want to share with you that we are in the opening years of a fourth industrial revolution. It's hard for us to sort of understand that or kind of touch it because we're in it. Very often things that have changed the world are only apparent to us when we look back, right? When we look at the first industrial revolution and we now think about, wow, the impacts of steam and of steel. We look at the second industrial revolution and we think about things like electricity. What electricity did to the world. There was a world before electricity and a world after electricity. And by the way, that's a project that we're still working on, right? It's not finished. We still have about 1 billion people to bring electricity to. When we get to the third industrial revolution, we're into the electronics age and information technology, right? It starts in about 1957 when Sputnik is launched from the Soviet Union, and America gets nervous and says, we have to invest in electronics and miniaturization, and then there's a space race, and the digital age is born. The digital age is born. By the way, that revolution continues to this day. The third industrial revolution is all of the digitalization that takes place right now. And now we're in what looks like a fourth industrial revolution, which is the intersection of a whole range of new technologies and behaviors on a global basis that are changing the very nature of how we work, how we play, and how we live. The scope of things will be larger, the impact will be larger, the speed at which we make changes, and it'll occur because of a convergence. Right? So we are in the starting years of what looks like a fourth industrial revolution that will pretty much change a lot of what we know as the way we live today, the way we get around, the way we use power, the tools we use, the jobs we have. And by the way, all of this is going to happen, for the most part, inside cities. Inside cities. So cities continue to really matter. So here are the 4 areas that I wanted to briefly share with you before I wrap. The first one is transportation. There's probably few areas in the world where the innovation processes of transportation aren't being felt. Right? Or at least I should say, maybe the better way to say this is, the impact of not innovating is being felt, right? When you sit in traffic for hours just to go 5 miles and you wonder what's happening, why can't we have nice roads that are empty and things move really fluidly? That is a reflection on our transportation crisis. So what's happening in this space? What's happening in transportation? So there is a good news story here. We are starting to rethink how we move people and goods around the world. For example, we're beginning to see a transformation from the combustion engine to the electric engine, to electric cars. This is pretty massive in its consequences, right, on multiple levels. And what should impress all of us is that many countries now have a time when we're not going to sell another combustion engine car. In some countries it's 2035, some are 2040, 2045. Sounds like it's a long time away, but the reality is What's that? That's 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Not a long time before we transition to electric cars. Our cars will also drive themselves. Our cars will drive themselves. There was a time I used to do this talk when I would say, I think they're going to drive themselves. I think so. I've looked at the science, I've looked at the research, I think they're going to. Today I stand here before you in Casablanca, Morocco in 2021, and I say to you, cars will drive themselves, and not only will they drive themselves, it will be illegal for humans to drive cars. The same way it is, for example, for an American to ride a horse down a highway in the United States. We won't be able to drive cars. We probably won't own cars either. Ownership is going away. Don't take my word for it. Ask the CEOs of General Motors and Toyota and Nissan and on and on. Ask any of the leaders and they will tell you, we are looking to diversify, become mobility companies in the broader sense, because we don't think selling lots and lots of cars is going to be our business model in a few decades. Okay. So transportation is changing. One of the incredible consequences of COVID has been the adoption of the bicycle. Now, people often talk to me and they say, Jonathan, what's the technology that's changing the world? And they expect me to say things like artificial intelligence or blockchain or something. Well, those are incredible technologies. But bicycles are technologies too. The adoption of bicycles in a big way is happening. It's been happening even pre-COVID and is happening now during and will increase in velocity as we go post-COVID. Bicycles change cities, they change behaviors, they change people, they change the air, right? The second area is energy. We are in the beginning of an energy revolution. Do you feel it? Do you see it? Right? We really are, as we go from a carbon-based economy to a non-carbon-based economy. It's happening very, very rapidly. Today, wind is the most adopted non-carbon type of energy, but it looks like the winners will be solar. It looks like in the long term. Now, make your own mind up, do your own research, but we think, myself and some other researchers, that we are going to be largely, the energy of the world will be driven by the sun. It won't be the only energy, by the way. There will be other energies, and carbon isn't going anywhere soon. We don't have a quick replacement for coal, oil, and gas. We don't. It's going to have to be part of the mix, but it will be a much smaller part of the mix. And solar isn't just about getting energy from the sun. It means you may not be connected to a grid. Or, in fact, you may be paid as a homeowner for generating power and putting it back on the grid. So it changes a lot of the characteristics of cities. The third area is the climate. If you believe the scientific consensus, the temperature, the average temperatures globally are increasing. They've already increased over the last century by about 1 degree Celsius. 1 degree Celsius on average. And we think if we get to 2.5, that's problematic. And unfortunately, it's actually going quite quickly. Faster than we would like. Right? It's kind of a pessimistic, sort of disturbing data point. But I again look at it and I say, wow, there's opportunity. How do we solve that? How do we create new technologies and new ideas to be able to solve that, and try to level the average temperatures where they are? We may not be able to reduce them, but can we slow them down and get them to sort of stabilize for a while? Right? So the actions to take that will change the climate are going to be largely driven by cities. Look, cities are motivated. 1.5 billion people live on the coastline of some country, and the water's rising, and, well, they could be in trouble, right? The final area of the four, digitalization. Digitalization, right? It's the low-hanging fruit, the easy opportunities for innovators to take all the analog processes in our cities and transfer them to digital platforms. Now, you might think, well, aren't we doing that? No. As I travel around the world, we have barely digitalized cities and governments, and that represents a multi-trillion dollar opportunity. All the things I'm talking about to make our cities smarter and more efficient and more are going to be worth, we think, about $2.4 trillion, that's with a T, trillion dollars, by the year 2025, somewhere 24, 25, not so long from now. So in conclusion, our cities are the places we're going to solve problems. They are our home. There's amazing innovation to happen, and there's no reason why Africa and Morocco can't be the source of urban innovation and smart city innovation for the world. There's no reason. It's an equal playing field today. So, as I conclude, thank you very much for thinking about this. And I always like to end with a little bit of a question. What can each of us do? What can you do to build better cities for the future?